Hey, I'm Andy, and welcome to Rock, Roll, and Red Plaid. Alrighty, we are here on the Rock, Roll, and Red Plaid podcast here with Dante Frisiello. It took me a while to figure out how to get your name right, but I got it.
Got it, man. That's really impressive.
I had to go and hear you say it, so in one of your interviews there. But I found out about what you do through, I guess, some of your vlogs you do with when you were on tour with Steve Vai, and I was kind of I think I forget what video it was, but it was just basically the run of the mill day through everything you guys were doing, and I was like, wow, it really was a well put together video, and I started kind of following what you do there and getting in contact, and thank you for coming on the show. So
Oh, absolutely, man. Thanks for checking out those vlogs. I try to make them fun.
they are, yeah, absolutely. So I guess my first question I ask for everybody I always have on the show is like, what was your quote unquote aha moment where it's like, what artist got you to pick up the guitar and start playing?
Yeah. Well, it's uh there were a couple moments that all kind of happened in close succession. The most important and significant one was my brother,
Hmm.
who actually lives in Boston. I was just telling you about. He picked up I tried playing guitar once in seventh grade. I quit because I hated it. I was reading music and playing Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Mm,
That wasn't cool. So I
no.
hated it. But then I started playing Guitar Hero and I got really good at Guitar Hero. My brother was visiting one time and he saw me doing, he's like, dude, that's so lame. Like you gotta play the real guitar.
Spoken like a true brother.
Yeah. And he was like, dude, if you want girls to like you at parties and stuff, you can't play that. You gotta play
No.
the thing. I was like, oh, okay. Well, I guess I want girls at parties to like me. So, uh, but he picked up my old acoustic and I
Hmm.
watched him play Stone Temple Pilots Interstate Love Song.
Mm.
And it was like the forces of gravity were converging around him. Like I watched him and I don't really know how to describe it, but I think anyone out there who's a real guitar lover will probably understand this to some extent. It just felt like the whole I was so young and impressionable. I was 13 at the time, and
Mm.
uh, so inspired and excitable. I mean, I still am inspired and excitable, but at that age, it was like explosive.
Oh yeah.
And I saw him playing, and it was just like, oh my God. And I felt this overwhelming sensation. I need to do that.
Mm.
It was different. Then I started getting lessons from an incredible guitar player named Eric Webb at my
Mm.
local store. He happened to just live in town, and he's an unbelievable guitar player. I was so lucky to have him. I started taking lessons from him, and then of course Rush was my favorite band of all is my favorite band of all time,
Oh
and
wow.
listening
Okay.
to them. I've been listening to them since I was 5 years
There
old.
you go.
I've been listening to Rush since I was 5 years old. So I just, I was like wanting to play Rush songs and that kind of thing. And then it's funny because then the next big aha moment was actually when I discovered Steve Vai. And
Wow.
it was the song Lotus Feet. I watched that on
Mm.
YouTube. And there was just the combination of the electric guitar and the orchestra and just such a beautiful composition. And I remember the sensation I felt when I found that was um I want to make other people feel this way. I want to
Mm.
make other people feel the way that this piece of music is making me feel.
All right.
And that was that was the nexus of getting inspired to play and then getting inspired with what my goal was going to be with the guitar because um at the end of the day what really drove me at the core was uh wanting to do it because it looked so much fun and wanting to make other people feel inspired and positive and uplifted in the way I felt from that music. Um, so those were my big aha moments, really.
Right.
Yeah.
Love the full circle of the Steve Vai thing. That's just, have you mentioned that to him, by the way?
It's pretty eerie, isn't it?
You ever
It's
tell him that?
pretty eerie. Yeah, yeah, we talked about it.
Cool.
He hears that 10 times a day from
Oh,
all.
sure. Yeah, yeah.
But no, we have talked about it, and um we've talked about that Lotus Feet, that piece of music
Sure.
in particular, a decent amount, just because it's so good.
One of
Uh,
you, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
yeah. Oh no, that's it.
I was just gonna say, I think it was trying to remember which one it was from Passion and Warfare that was one of my favorites, which was God, I'm horrible with titles. I think it was Answers or The Riddle. One of those two are were just like it makes you think, is he like you're thinking, how do you make your fingers do that? Like there's because it gets to a point where you feel like you're doing this, like there's like how does this happen? You know, you almost, but that's like you said, when you and I think are the same kind of very inspired, but back then when you're growing up, the formative years, you know, you really get to a point where it you zone in and you almost completely obsess about it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. So I guess
It's different. It's stuff like that hits different when you're 13, and
yeah.
you're in a position where in your life where you're like you're trying to find your identity. And that
Mm,
was the first time I remember really thinking a lot when I was 12, 13. Like, I used to think, who is my favorite band? Who is my favorite anything? Like, what are the things that define me? I was really in
right.
the period of trying to understand who I was and figure
Mm,
out, like, what are the things I like? What am I into? And I guess I was just, it was the perfect time to discover the guitar because I was open and interested in finding things that grabbed me. And and
totally.
and and that's such a powerful thing because I still try and live that way. I'm 31 now.
Okay.
But I still try and live that way. I still try and live completely open to new music, new inspiration,
Agreed.
because I want to feel like that 13-year-old kid. I think that's the most beautiful thing ever. I'd like to keep feeling that way, you know?
I agree completely. I just turned 30 myself, so about a month ago. So that was kind of the I was thinking, yeah, trying to figure out because we were thinking we were give or take the same age, and
Yeah.
because I was thinking, you know, and not knocking any of the bands I'm about to mention because I like them too, but like when the kids we were going to school with were listening to Paramore or any of these other kind of quote unquote radio-ish kind of or whatever of the time, we had our Satriani records, we had our Steve Vai records, we had all the stuff we were listening to, and I felt at the time, I'm like, I can't be the only person who's like the only kid who's into this stuff. I'm like, wait a second, there's got to be something more to it, you know?
Yeah, totally.
I
We
remember
we came up.
meeting Satriani when I was 14. I was sitting at his feet watching him play the whole night. I was just like, hi.
uh, yeah,
Exactly.
um we came up with so many great bands. I mean, we had the pop punk era. That was,
Sure.
it was fun, man. It was
It's
fun.
great. I do love it. Yeah, of course.
It was fun music, but there was, at least for me, I was I loved like Good Charlotte.
Hmm.
That was a pop punk band. But um I was always interested, like, I was always interested in video game music. So,
Mm.
you know, an arguably as important moment was when I heard Dire Docks playing Super Mario 64 when I was 6 years old.
Okay.
That's when I connected to music in my
Mm.
memory for one of the very first times. I heard it and I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh my God, this is making me feel so good. What is?"
Right.
And that's an e piano piece.
Mm.
So, like, rock bands are cool, but I think from a young age, I was I was into rock, but I was also very into electronic music and orchestral music
Mm,
because of the video game thing, So, like I remember having Skrillex stuck in my head when I was in, seventh or eighth grade,
right,
more so than the rock band stuff. I was just
right.
always tended to more go in that direction. But ironically, I'm a rock guitar player, so
Sure.
I don't know, man.
Well, I've heard dudes on YouTube do like 8 string versions of Bangarang, and it works.
That's awesome.
I don't know if you've seen any of those, but it totally translates.
Yeah.
Um, I guess my next question is like, the retired lawyer thing I thought I got a kick out of. Not the how did how did you go from one place to the other? I mean, I guess that's the question about that. I'm asking, how'd you go from doing law, practicing law, I should say, and
Yeah.
to going to play guitar professionally?
Well, it's a bit of a story, so you have to indulge me. I'll try
I'm
to keep
strapping in.
I'll try to keep it relatively concise. Um, so yes, I was an attorney. I guess I'm technically no longer one. I certainly don't practice, but I guess I don't think I'm barred technically anymore. I let my license expire. No plan B. I don't believe in plan Bs.
There you
Everyone
go.
always tells me, "Oh, you're still a lawyer. You could go work at a firm if the music thing doesn't work out." This is what I have to say to that.
Uh-oh.
I'm never going back to the law. I have no desire to ever go back to that, and I really don't believe in having a plan B. I think it just wastes your time and energy focusing on
Mm,
what you actually want to do. And
right.
as long as you can make enough money to live, then why the worry about it?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you don't want me to curse
I-
on
I'll
this.
get I'll get the little thing for it.
Okay, I'll try not to curse. Um, I curse a lot. But it's like why bother with wasting your brain power and your energy doing things that you don't want to do? And
Mm,
that energy, that ethos is at
mm,
the center of my story. So growing up, I was always really good at school. I was always a people pleaser, so I wanted to make my parents and teachers proud, and I wanted to be successful and impress people. And what better career for someone with an ego and desire to impress people than to be a lawyer, right? So
mm,
it was a natural fit for me from the outside looking in because I
mm,
love to argue. I was a great public speaker. I was very articulate. I
mm.
liked to read, and I was good at reading, and I was good at school. And people used to just naturally push me in that direction. Oh yeah, you should be a lawyer. That would be great. And once I started telling people, yeah, I think I want to go to law school, people, your average person is going to be very impressed by that because it is an impressive career, and you can make a lot of money and have influence, and those are traditional values that a lot of people think are worth pursuing,
Sure.
and great for them. What I came to discover as I went down the path, I went to a very competitive law school in DC. I worked in very competitive law firms, big law firms in DC, practicing antitrust. Law took 6 years of me. 3 years of school, 3 years of practice. And the biggest thing that I learned from doing it all was that very quickly into law school, I realized, man, this is not for me. That like all the stuff that I thought was important, all those things I just described for you they're not important to me.
Mm.
What's important to me is which one of my favorite bands are on tour this year, who's putting out a new record. Uh,
Right.
like that's what was important to me. It's just what I cared about. I had to
Sure.
force myself to read the law books and get excited about cases. I didn't have to force myself to get excited about like discovering Nick Johnston, for example, and discovering Pliny and Intervals when all those guys came out. Like I
Right.
didn't have to get excited about that. I just was excited
Right.
about it. And it was that realization that, I went through the first year of law school. I barely played guitar,
Oof.
worked really, really insanely hard. And then once the dust settled from the first year, um, and I was able to have a little bit more space to think, I just started feeling a very, very deep, intense creative pull. to start writing music.
Wow.
And it was because of those contemporaries. It was because of Pliny. Uh, it was because of Nick Johnston. It was because of Aaron Marshall. It was because of Tosin. Um, all of them, and they all make great music. You know, they all have great guitar sounds. They're all so inspired, and they do such great stuff. And you know, it was hearing all of that, and then seeing Pliny intervals and Tosin animals
Mhm.
all in one night. I was just like, dude, like, what am I doing with my life? These guys are my age, and they have
Right. Yeah.
a computer and a set of speakers, and they're making records like this. Like, what am I doing with my life? I want to be doing that. So I said, screw it. Like, that's gonna be my main pursuit.
Wow.
And that's what I want to do. And I'll just continue to do the law thing because I have to. I have to have a job. I have to have a way to make money. I didn't
Sure.
I didn't see it being beneficial to me to quitting school with, at that point, probably 150K of debt and no job, to go work on music at home. Like that didn't seem productive to me. And
No.
I also knew that I had the stuff intellectually to get through it. I'm like, okay, I know I can get through this law stuff as much as I hate it. So I'm just going to get through it and survive and get a job as long as I can and just do it as long as I can stomach it. And in the way that the whole Steve Vai thing happened is because I was in this headspace, and, I was it felt it was right around the same time. It would have been the fall of 2016. I started law school fall of 2015, graduated college in May 2015. Yeah, so it would have been fall of 2016, spring of 2017 is when
Mhm.
I was getting inspired by all these guys. And also Dave Weiner, 20-year guitar player for Steve Vai,
Sure.
who lives in Philadelphia,
Mhm.
um, posted on his Facebook page that he was starting a guitar club. I had taken like 3 or 4 Skype lessons from Dave when I was in college.
Mhm.
So I was aware of him. I was into his music. When I saw this, I thought, oh, I need to go to that,
Yeah.
because if I want to be a musician, I got to learn. I got to get better. I am not good. I'm not good. I need to get better. So I need to put myself in positions where I'm the worst guitar player in the room and I can learn. So the first Saturday of every month for 3 years, I rented a car because I didn't have a car. And I rented a car, drove 3 hours to Philadelphia, played guitar in a Sam Ash with Dave and a bunch of other people that I all became great friends of mine over the years, at the Philly Guitar Club, and then drove home. And it was 6 hours in the car for a 2 hour jam where I probably played on stage for 10, 15 minutes. But I did it every month for 3 years. And
Wow.
the reason why I did it is because I knew if I kept showing up and getting schooled by Dave, by watching him and playing with him and hearing him, and I knew I would get better. I knew I would get better. And so that was an investment in myself, in getting better and in my craft. Uh, and eventually, if you keep showing up to things and you have a positive attitude and you're enthusiastic and you're a good person and you show these kinds of values, people recognize that. And Dave just started giving me opportunities. He asked me to tech for him at a PRS gig, asked me to open for him, because I also, as inspired as I was, I think it's so important to emphasize that when you are inspired, you have to commit to some discipline if you
Mhm.
really want to follow through. So
Yeah.
I was inspired, but then I got to work. I started making records, and my plan was to make one record a year, as long as I could.
Mhm.
And ultimately, in uh, 5 years' time, I made 4 records, and one of them was a band that I started called Flying Formation. So
Yeah.
I basically stuck to my goal. I played in like 4 or 5 different bands. I started my own band. I was playing cover gigs when I could around town. I taught a little bit. I was basically trying to do full-time music while doing law. And then eventually it just putting all that effort in, Dave just gave me the opportunity to be his tech on a Steve Vai tour. And of course I said yes. I quit my job, moved back home to my parents,
Mhm.
and went on tour as his tech 90 shows. And along the way, came to find out he was leaving the band. And recommended me to Steve to be his replacement. So I was auditioning at sound checks, and I
Wow.
transcribed the entire set before I went out on tour. I transcribed
Wow.
I transcribed Dave's every single one of his parts. It's a
Wow.
2.5 hour show.
Mm.
So I actually showed up to my first. No, I don't think anyone actually knows this, but I showed up to day one as a guitar tech, basically knowing the entire set. Um, and I just did that because I just wanted to. I wanted to be ready in case an opportunity came, and then the opportunity came. So I was ready, and that's how it all happened.
That's a round of applause, dude. That
Oh,
and the
thank you.
Academy goes too.
Oh, stop it, man.
No, for real, man. That was, I mean, I actually, that was just, just funny enough. You mentioned Dave, of course. I was watching the old Steve Vai at the Astoria, London.
Hmm.
I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, of
As
course.
probably a DVD. I don't know if it was VHS, but it was definitely a DVD. I had that, and that was my bread and butter for a long time,
Yeah.
playing that one. So
Great.
Dave had his own little piece in there. He's great. He's really what a
I wouldn't be here if not for him. I mean, he gave me the opportunity, and you know, um I kept showing up and I kept putting in all the work, but uh he's the one who
yeah.
put he gave
Kind
me
of
the
said,
opportunity.
hey, yeah,
Yeah. So I
it's awesome.
I thank him every day, man. I think about him every day, and I'm grateful for the fact that he gave me the opportunity.
That's awesome, man. Hey, uh, speaking of flying formation, I was listening to Caterpillar Club, Horses in Spring. I really, really liked What Lives On. That was a beautiful song.
Thank
Uh,
you, man. Thank you.
the the Caterpillar Club video was fun. That was a
Oh, you know
fun
what? You
one.
saw that.
That was a fun one. The guys you've mentioned, also thinking of course, you mentioned Tosin, and then also I think of Polyphia. I think of Jason Richardson, Nita Strauss. I feel like there's a real strong generation of instrumental guitar coming up that is in and around our age, kind of like maybe a little younger, older, depending. But
Yeah.
any of these, but uh, anyone you'd particularly want to go out and do a bill with and tour with, or that'd be.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, that probably the list is a laundry list, but
Well, I would just absolutely love the opportunity to play music with so many of those people and travel with so many of them. Um, I've gotten to know a decent number of these people now over the last couple years, and
sure.
um, I mean, Pliny writes like amazing music, and his band is so cool. Those guys are so fun. I would love to tour with them. I mean, Fifth I think Fifth would fit in a lot of those places, but at least for now, we're still instrumental for now.
Yeah,
We want to add vocals for our third record.
yeah.
But man, I mean, truly any of them. I mean, I I I love Nick Johnston so
Mm,
much. I think he's so underrated.
mm,
Like people don't talk about him enough. He is an incredible composer. He has just such great tone and feel. He instantly sounds unique.
mm.
It's such a classic way. Like he sounds, he's got a lot of Jeff Beck, you know,
Ooh, okay.
and most of the modern shredder guitar players don't reference that type of playing as
Mm,
often as he does. And I really love that because his music is super vocal. And it's very, very, very melodic and harmonically instantly recognizable. So I mean, I would tour with any of them, man. Like I
oh,
love
sure.
Intervals has an incredible live show. Their live
Mm,
show has been developed over the years. Those guys have built a real touring band.
yeah,
It's a touring band. Like their shows are so
sure.
much fun, and they have great crowds, big energy at those shows. I mean, yeah, yeah.
My friend Tara asked me if I'd ever if I something about intervals, and I gave her a wise answer. I said, "Well, I use them a lot in my music." Just to goof on her. And she's like, "What?" I'm like, "Never mind. I guess he doesn't play." And I'm just like, "Never mind." But anyhow, um, yeah. Speaking of that really kind of melodic, it's almost singing with the guitar. That's kind of the way I describe it. I mentioned the song "What Lives On." Awesome. That was the one that I played over a couple times for sure.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Yeah, kind of a little bit of Satriani and vibes in it to me anyhow, because I'm just a huge Satch fan. Those kind of specific vibrato that was very, it's not too shaky, but it's just enough to sound vocal. That's kind of, I'm sure you significantly worked on that and can tell. Um, do you remember what went into writing that one specifically, or how you write kind of?
Absolutely. I mean, so the way Flying Formation has worked is the first record, I wrote all the music, hired everybody. Um,
Oh,
but this, yeah. So it was the goal was to always make it a band, but it did kind of start as sort of a solo project
gotcha.
in with a band name, but
Hmm.
we've evolved. So now we write all our music together. But the first record I wrote entirely in isolation, 98% of it. And then the second record I wrote about 75-80% of it in isolation. And then that's when I had the demos, I left some blank spaces because I
Mm.
felt like, okay, I mean, Reese, our bass player slash other guitar player, is an unbelievable composer. Nathan is a creative genius, and Brendan, our keyboard player, he already spent a ton of time writing keyboard parts, and he likes to write parts. So everyone's kind of a writer, and so I just thought, if I want to make this really a band, I'm going to have to leave some gaps. So I left
Mm.
gaps in the fifth two demos and let those guys fill them in. So when you hear fifth two, you're hearing like Caterpillar Club. Like I wrote that one basically beginning to end.
Okay.
But Florida Rain and Song Seven or Seventh Circle, they both have big chunks that were written by the other guys.
Awesome.
So, but What Lives On, and now, like I said, our third record, we wrote it all together,
Right
nothing
on.
else.
There you go.
So it's really becoming a band. But What Lives On, that's such a I appreciate that you enjoy that song. It's a very powerful one for me. I wrote that song. I picked up my guitar one night and I was reading a book on composition that was teaching me about voice leading. And most of my songs start out from ideas in my head, but every once in a while they start in the hands. And
Mm.
uh, this one started because I was learning about voice leading and the concept of, having as few movement points between notes and chord changes as possible. And I just grabbed this little F sharp minor triad starting on the A string, just for whatever reason.
Hmm.
It sounded really beautiful with the B and the E open.
Mm.
I really love that. And that's the first chord of the song.
Right.
Fades up, of course, but and then I thought, okay, well, how would I voice lead this triad? Like this was me trying to learn the technique of voice leading. And so I said, well, if I keep my index finger and I just move my middle finger down one and then I move the root down a whole step, that will make the shift really mild. So I can go from F sharp minor to E major
Hmm.
with a little diatonic movement,
Hmm.
um, with as little motion as possible. And then that's how I got that second chord. And then my heart exploded. And I was like, oh my God, that's a song. That's definitely a
Yeah.
song. That's
Yeah.
really good. Um, and then I just started playing with the other chords in the intro and eventually, threw in some non-diatonic movement to make it more interesting and make it
Sure.
something that I liked. Um, but uh, that's where it started, was with the opening arpeggio sequence. And then the rest of it, the the riffs and the outro section and all that stuff, just kind of built off of that. Once I had that vibe in mind, I
Yeah.
just kind of built off of it. by writing simple riffs and then trying to sing them or manipulate them with MIDI into being a little bit more complicated or a little bit more nuanced. And that was kind of my process back then. So that's how that one came about. And then the outro of that piece is probably my favorite part of the whole album. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, I'm
I'll have
very,
to
very happy with that.
have to go back and listen to that again to really catch all
Got that
that, you know.
big, simple, it's just got that big, simple melody over
Yeah.
the kind of chugging pattern,
Yes.
which is something I love. I love really complex chugging patterns with really simple, beautiful, soaring melodies over them. Um,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
sometimes a lot of people do the opposite sometimes, but like
Yes.
when you hear something that is kind of the opposite of what everybody's been doing, your ears are inclined to go, oh, what's that? That's kind of that's unique. That's cool, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's something that Pliny does a lot. He
Okay.
does that
Yeah.
a lot. He'll have double kick patterns and crazy riffs, and then he's playing a very simple melody over it. And
Right.
that just really spoke to me, partially because I'm lazy and I'm like, I would want to play the easy part, but also because like there's a thunder in wild double kicks. Like there's a thunder in that. There's not
Sure.
really as much of a thunder for me in a simple kick snare beat pattern when it comes to electric guitar. Like I love the
Yeah.
thunder of I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. That's thunderous to me. Um
Yeah.
I abuse Nathan on the double kick. Like climb formation for him is like all about the double kick.
So he's getting his calves a good workout. He's
He was just telling me on our call an hour ago that he's grinding his double kick technique because the stuff we've written for the third record is demonic.
Oh boy.
Demonic.
Well, we are in Dante's Inferno here. Sorry, I had to throw that one in.
No one's ever made that joke before. Good job.
Really? I thought you'd be sick of it by now. You know, speaking of the good workouts and stuff, this is related to touring questions, but I did definitely notice from your socials posts and stuff, you do keep yourself in good shape, and you know, good good for you, and it's good to do all that. For touring musicians, especially DIY acts with minimal budgets, it can be really hard to, you know, stay fit or eat well. I don't know. Do you have any specific advice for people for musicians who do that, or just like who might,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah.
If you're trying to lose weight or slim down in any manner, intermittent fasting.
Okay.
I helped Steve's son Julian on this last tour, who's a one of our touring companions.
Hmm.
I helped him lose 21 pounds in 8 weeks on the road,
There you
and
go.
through it was through 30% workout and 70% diet, and just getting onto an intermittent fasting schedule where you don't eat for 18 hours
Mm,
a few days a week, if not more, or
mm,
maybe doing more than that. What happens basically is the after 18 hours of no consumption, and that includes cream and coffee, um, and sugar and coffee. So you have to drink black coffee if you're a coffee drinker. Um, your body enters ketosis, and once your body enters ketosis, essentially what happens is your cells start purging themselves. They start cleaning out and pulling old fat and burning it to stay alive. Your body
go.
basically goes into fight or flight mode, and there's so many studies have come out about the power of fasting for so many things. And I fast myself on the road once in a while. I'd say probably once every 2 or 3 weeks I'll do a 24-hour fast. I'll play a show having not eaten for 24 hours. I
Oof.
always feel great. I feel super energized. I feel like this kind of wall of energy once you hit hour 20, 21, you start to get like, yeah, and you just drink. I just drink an extra coffee that day. I have 2 coffees that day. That's my reward for fasting.
That's good.
Yeah, but it's that would be thing number one for anyone who's trying to lose weight. Anyone trying
Good.
to gain weight, which is usually the situation I find myself in because I shrink if I stop eating and working out.
Mm,
Um, man, I mean, you just gotta do you gotta find gyms. You gotta
mm.
find gyms, and when you find that gym, you gotta punish it
Yep.
the shit. So when
Oh
we
yeah.
get when we get a hotel day off, and I know we're not going to have another hotel for 3 days, I'll work out for sometimes I'll get 3 workouts in an 18-hour span.
There you go.
Sometimes I'll work out in the afternoon, again at night, and then
Hmm.
again the next day before leaving the hotel.
Hmm.
Usually, though, I'll only get in two. I'll get one in each day,
Right.
the night and the morning. But you got to make the workouts count when you can get them. And just going on YouTube, and this applies, this what I would say applies to everybody. Going on YouTube and just finding body weight workouts.
Hmm.
Find body weight workouts, do them in your green
Yep.
room or on your bus or wherever,
There you go.
and stretching.
Oh yeah.
You have to stretch because you sleep in weird, uncomfortable places, and
Yep.
you
Yep.
stretch because you're
I know.
yeah, you're climbing around on stages, you're headbanging, maybe you're lifting gear.
Hmm.
Fortunate enough with touring with the Vi band that when I was
Oh
a
yeah.
tech lifting
Oh
equipment,
yeah. That was probably another workout into of
that was a
itself.
great workout. When
Oh
I came
yeah.
from teching, my lower back was like dead, dude. It was I couldn't walk for a week after a 10
Oh
work teching. It was like
man.
it was miserable. But anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
man. I mean, fasting, and
Hmm.
if you're trying to lose and if you're trying to bulk, you just got to work
Yeah.
out really hard, and try and bring healthy food with you, or
Oh
put
yeah.
healthy food on your rider. Greek yogurt,
Absolutely.
carbs.
Yep. I'm down about 20 at this point for me, so
Good job,
it's
man.
good.
That's great.
Doing what I got to do,
Great, man.
Yeah, sometimes for me it can be a little more difficult. It's no secret on my channel here. I live with bipolar disorder, and one of the meds I have to take on to keep this in check increases a bit of weight gain. So I got to counteract that and work a little harder for it. But it is what it is.
Gotcha.
But
Well,
down 20 still. So
I mean, that's amazing, man. That's
mm,
great. And
yep,
you work with we're all just working with what we got. So
absolutely.
sounds like you're doing it, man. So more power
Yep.
to you.
Thank you. Hey,
Oh yeah.
so what is next on the docket for flying formation and the Mr. Dante here?
Oh,
What's going on next?
well, I'm shifting into a new phase.
Hmm.
So right now with uh no touring on the horizon, uh no shows potentially on the horizon with Steve for a long time.
Hmm.
I'm very excited because as much as I love touring,
Hmm.
it's very easy to fall. And if you do it as much as I did for basically 2 years nonstop, it's easy to fall into a creative lull.
Mm.
So I am a extremely like I try to be and I aspire to be a violently high output creative person.
Right
And
on.
the road can just beat it out of you.
Mm.
Lose your creativity
I
because
hear
it is
you.
such a grind. The road is amazing for practice.
Oh
Like
yeah.
if you want to get better at the guitar and you can get a chance to be on tour, it's going to be your dream because you can practice all day and then go play a show.
And do the show. Yeah.
Like every day you can play guitar for like 10 hours. And that's your job. That's boom, you're doing it.
There it
You don't
is.
have
Yeah.
anything else. So that's kind of what I did last year, but I'm moving into a new creative phase of extreme violent high output, and the kind of music I want to make is very different.
Hmm.
So I'm going to revive making music solo, which I haven't done
Okay.
for a long time. And I really want to make this is going to sound funny to guitar fans, but I want to make dubstep.
Really?
I want to make dubstep. I want to make electronic music, like
I'm in.
EDM, like uh, you know, and I want to do it, but I want to do it with electric guitar. So
Ooh.
come at it with rhythmic ideas, harmonic ideas, melody ideas, and riffs and stuff, blending into like a much more commercially accessible sound. Um, because like I said, like at the beginning of all of this, when I wanted to make music as a kid, what I wanted to make other people feel good.
Yeah.
I was never the kind of person who looked at the guitar and thought that I wanted to become an, a virtuoso and I wanted to uh, become a magician, technician type player, and then whatever music I make is whatever music I make, and whoever appreciates me will just appreciate me for my technique or for my whatever.
Right.
I always wanted to inspire people.
Right.
So, and I wanted to reach people. I didn't really care about virtuosity. And I know that's like, I don't know if that's the cool or uncool thing to say. You could probably get differing answers from different people, but the way I see it at this point in my life is there's so many fucking incredible guitar players out there that I could never touch, who use techniques like economy picking and alternate picking that I just don't use. And I don't really have much of an interest in mastering, because the thought of alternate picking or economy picking 5 hours a day for the next 5 years like sounds miserable. That just doesn't sound fun. I would be bored in 5 minutes, let
Might be a
alone
bit,
five
it might be
five
a bit on the wrist, you know?
Yeah, I mean, for some guys, it's what they love, and that's beautiful. You got to do
Right.
what you love. That's what art is all about. So right
Right.
now, I love electronic music, and I want to find a way to make it with the electric guitar and put more music out there that is more commercially accessible, that isn't progressive metal, that isn't instrumental prog type of stuff. I want to make
Sure.
stuff with vocals and uh
Okay.
maybe not, probably not me singing, most likely not, but like doing basically what Sullivan King does, if you're familiar with him.
I'll have to
Uh,
look into him, but I
oh
I
man,
will trust your opinion here and trust your yeah.
he opened the door for me, man. Like I saw an Instagram post of him a few years ago, holding up a guitar with all these flames, like at Ultra at a DJ table, and I'm
Okay.
like, when he's got long hair,
Hmm.
and I'm like, wait a minute, who's this rock and roll dude
Who's
at
doing that? Yeah.
at Ultra. Like,
Yeah.
Ultra? Come on. You don't play guitar at Ultra. You don't
Right.
see bands or rock musicians at Ultra. That is the most EDM of the EDM.
Well, let's break that door down then, right?
Yeah. And he is he pioneered in a lot of ways, I think, this electric guitar dubstep thing.
Okay.
And I want to kind of take what he's done and put my own spin on it,
Yeah.
because I have my own harmonic and melodic senses about me, and
Yep.
but yeah, that's kind of that's my main project right now, starting in a week after I move.
Right
Um,
on.
and then with Flying Formation, we just put out our second record, One Within. Super proud of it. It's the first time in my life I've ever published something and listened back to it on Spotify and been like, damn, this is incredible. I wouldn't
Right.
change a thing. Even when I listen to Horses in Spring, I'm like, damn, there's things about this I wish I could change, but
Yeah.
not anymore. We made something that
Yeah.
I've kind of ticked that box. So now the band is writing fully collaboratively. We want to add a
Mhm.
singer. So in August, September, we're looking at getting together to do a bunch of recording and keep
Mm.
writing. Hopefully put together another record and put out another record. I would love to see something come out in 2025 from us. That would be
Okay.
another, 4, 5, 6 songs, another body of work
You
next
need
year.
kind of an EP. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know what to call it anymore. I just think of it as a body of work.
Yeah, there you go. It is what it is, you know?
Anywhere from 4 to 7 songs.
Yeah.
We just records, album, EP, physical architecture was 30 minutes. Is it technically an EP? I don't know.
Nah.
One Within is like 35 minutes. I don't know, but we're just going to put out another body of work
There you
and
go.
keep doing that. And I would love to see that band tour next year. I don't know how to make that happen, but I would love to. But we'll
Right.
see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I would love to too. I'd love to see it, you know.
Thanks,
Um,
man.
think of Boston. Think of if possible, you know,
All
it'd
the
be
Berkeley musos.
yeah, I'd come around, you know.
How about that?
Alrighty, my friend. Thank you. I'm gonna stop the tape right here and right. For more of my original content, visit my website, www.andyconley.com.